All right, so now it's time for us to work on the details route. So when we click, we come here. So far we have this useless button. Well, I shouldn't say useless because it at least gets us back to the main page or route here. But so there's this button and so there's this one here. Okay, so this was just for us to learn how to pass data to the next page or route. Let's go back to our code. Now, the first thing we're going to do in our movie list view details, because this is indeed the new page. Firstly, let's rearrange a few things in our movie list view details. At this point here, we only have this raise button, and we don't want to have that. We're actually going to go ahead and let me come down here, and I'm going to comment all out. So at least you have that. Let's put a body again. And instead, we're going to put a list view. Again, it's always a good idea to put things into a list view, especially when we know we can have a lot of information that's going to be shown here, right? A precaution that we are taking. All right, so I'm going to add the children array or list here. And this is where we're going to create our user interface. Of course, we could write all of our user interface details, route user interface here, but that would not be very scalable. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to create little pieces, and then we're going to call all these pieces here so we can actually see what shows here. Okay, in fact, if we go save it now, notice now it's all empty. All right, so we are going to go outside of this class. In fact, if you go like this, you can see to the top here we have the class name. So this is a good way to know where we are. So that's outside of our movie list view details. And I'm going to create a new class called movie details thumbnail, because I want to put a thumbnail, a big one thumbnail here, which is going to come from, for instance, if we click avatar, we're going to take that thumbnail and show it here. Obviously, we're going to pass it as an object. And then once we get that object, we're going to probe in and get the image. So I'm going to say stateless movie details thumbnail. You notice that I like to give my classes meaningful names. That way we know. And I usually like to append the type of route we are talking about. In this case, details route. So you could say movie thumbnail. That's fine. But I like to say that this will belong to our details route. Okay. So it's always a good idea that way when you have a lot of different pieces, you know exactly what they do. When we call our movie details thumbnail, we're going to show an image. So we need to make sure that we pass that string, because the images are going to be via URL, and URL is a string. So I'm going to string, we can call this thumbnail, and we're going to go ahead and create a constructor for final fields like this. Okay, very nice. In our build function, we're going to return a stack. The reason why we're returning a stack, because we're going to be able to stack a few things on top of this thumbnail. So the stack, you know by now, takes in children, because we can add as many widgets as we want. And I'm going to align this stack bottom center. So I'm going to say alignment, and I'm going to say bottom center. So now in this case, if we're returning a full stack and we make sure that this alignment is bottom center, that's fine. Now the first item inside of this stack we're going to add is actually going to be another stack, because we are going to stack a view on top of a view. So I'm going to say stack and give it an alignment dot center as such. Okay, it's going to be in the middle. Now, because we're inside of a stack, of course, we can invoke another. We will have to invoke another children. And in this case, I am going to add a container. Every time you want to have more flexibility in terms of what is that you want to present on the user interface, containers is always the best bet. So we're going to use a container, and of course, we're going to pass the width. Say 114 for now, and then the height is going to be about 190. We're going to change these numbers in a second here. In our container, we can also pass the decoration. So this is handy because we can decorate with a box decorator, or decoration should say. And in a box decoration, we can either pass a color, or we can just go ahead and pass the image, right? So we can pass both. If you pass an image, that's all you can pass. If you cannot pass a color. So we want an image. As you know by now, we need to pass a decoration image. You can't just pass any image, as you see there. Well, the image we're going to use is going to be a network image, and we're going to pass the URL. Okay, the URL is going to be our thumbnail URL, which we are going to be passing as a parameter. And we want to make sure that this is actually fit box cover as such. So it covers the entire box. All right, so next, still inside of this inner stack, we're going to add an icon. So you're going to see why. So I'm going to say icon. And of course, I'm going to pass icons as that. And I'm going to get, let's get a play circle outline. So you can see that circle looking good on top of the image. It's going to look real nice. Let's give it a size of about 100. That's going to be helpful. And I'm going to give it a color. Say colors, that white. All right, let's save this for now and see what's going to happen. Now, in order for us to see something, obviously, we need to call this movie details or movie details thumbnail somewhere. Where are we going to call it? Well, we're going to call it right about here, okay? Because this is a list view, so it's going to be this entire view in our details route. We're going to call here, I'm going to say movie details and thumbnail, and we're going to pass. It says it's a thumbnail that we're going to pass. And how do we get the thumbnail? Well, we get from movie object and we get images. And at this point, I'm just going to go get in the first one. Okay. All right, let's save this. And now you can see we have the thumbnail. So if we go back, click on I'm Legend, we're going to get the correct thumbnail. You can see we have this play button at the top. Now, the problem we have here is that the width is not what we want. So we need to change that. Fair enough. We know how to change this. So let's go to our class. This is where we change it. Now, we could play around with these numbers and say, okay, maybe 300, maybe 400, and so forth. There's a better way to do this using the media query. So I'll say media query, and I'm going to pass the context, and I'm going to say I want the size, the width. So it's going to get the width of the entire view possible, the entire visible area of our device. If you go like this, now you can see it's all here and looks really nice. So go back, let's get 300, and you can see it gives us the entire image. Just like that, we're able to add something a little bit better than what we had before, where we can click. Now we can transpose or take the image, the thumbnail of that movie, which because everything is very contextual still. So we pass that movie object, and then we know how to get the image. Okay, that's very nice. I'll see you in the next video.